Hey guys, it's Kaz and welcome back to my channel. Have you ever wondered why smartphones of these days, or why your smartphone has multiple cameras? You could see phones with 2, 3, 4 or even 5 cameras at the back of their phone. What is their uses? Do they actually have uses? A couple of people think these cameras do not really have uses, but they actually do. And first of all, this brings us to the question, are these actually cameras? Now, these stuffs at the back of your lenses are not cameras per se. They are actually lenses and not full-fledged camera. Your camera is the software which you open in your phone, but at the back of your phone what you have are lenses. Now you have multiple lenses because of the restriction you have using mobile phones. For instance, this is a DSLR camera. Now this lens can zoom out and zoom in, and it helps you to change the different focal lengths, which means it can zoom a subject or a person closer, and it can take it farther away with you not having to move around. So you have various types of lenses. For instance, if this cannot cover what I want to cover, let's say this cannot zoom in what I want as much as possible, I have the capability to put in another lens which has a stronger zoom, which can zoom a lot more, which is something like this, and it will give me that ability to zoom a lot more if I need to. However, on the smartphone, because they need to make things compact and small, you don't have the space to put such complex mechanisms into the smartphone. You will hear they can't even put these days earphone ports because it's eating up too much space. So they don't have the capability to put a lot of that into the smartphone. So the next best thing is to give you different kinds of lenses at the back of your camera. So what are these lenses? You usually have a standard lens, which is the one that has the most megapixels. Now, your standard lens might be the one with the 64 megapixel or 32 megapixel or 108 megapixel. Now, the standard lens is the one, once you open your camera, it is the one you see. The standard lens is usually a wide lens, which gives you the ability to capture a fair amount of subjects into your frame. And it is usually the best camera out of the other cameras. Then you have the next one, ultra wide lens. Now an ultra wide lens, from the name, gives you a very wide field of view. So while a standard lens would give you a particular image like this one here, an ultra wide lens is going to give you a much larger image, in the sense that it has a much larger field of view where you can capture a lot more than your standard lens without you having to move back. You might be in a situation where you need to capture a very wide image, but there is no space to move back. In that instance, you just switch to your ultra wide lens and you can capture a wider frame. That's usually what the ultra wide lens does. And the next one is usually the telephoto. Now your telephoto is what we know as the zooming in. You get, so with your telephoto you can zoom in and make subjects that are far look a lot closer. This makes use of what is called optical zoom. Now optical zoom is the kind of zoom that is done in the lens. Now, because of the optical zoom, you do not lose any quality. I'm sure a lot of us must have done that pinch to zoom. Now, once you open your camera and you pinch to zoom, which a lot of us are used to, it begins to lose quality. The image begins to look very noisy and pixelated. Now, to circumvent that effect of pinching to zoom, because what you are using in that instance is a digital zoom. Now, to stop that and use an optical zoom, all you have to do is to switch to your telephoto lens, and that will give you a zoomed in image without any loss of quality. So that's why you have your telephoto lens as well. And other types of lenses that you might have on your phone might include a macro lens. Now, what a macro lens does is it gives you the ability to take very tiny looking or small looking subjects, and when you take them, they look very big. You can see pictures of maybe an ant or an insect, a tiny looking insect, or details from a tree, very tiny stuff, or strands of hair. And by the time you take them at very close proximity, maybe 2 meters or 2.5 meters, they look actually really big. You can see an example of a well taken macro shot that was shot by a friend of mine over here. Now, another type of lens is your depth sensor. Now, your depth sensor is not a lens per se. It's more like an infrared sensor which tries to calculate the distance between the subject and the background, and helps you when you are taking portrait shots to blur out your background and give you that natural blur that we all love when we take portrait pictures. So your depth sensor helps you to calculate that separation in order for your lens to blur out that background. That's what the depth sensor does. Now, on iPhone, the depth sensor is usually called LiDAR sensor, and on Samsung, you hear something like time of flight sensor. Now, a lot of mid-range and budget phone will make the depth sensor look like an actual camera. So when you cover it, it looks like nothing gets covered, but that's because it's not actually a lens per se. It's actually a sensor that is just made to look like a lens. Now, for you to know what lenses you have on your phone, different cameras have different ways in which they switch between the modes. Now, I'm using a Techno Phantom X here. and I have 3 cameras here, and I have my main sensor, which is my standard. I have a wide angle and a telephoto. Where I have my standard, this is the standard here. This is a shot from my standard, and I switching to which is covered by this. Now, if I should switch to my ultra wide, this is the image you can get, which is pretty wide, and then I have my telephoto down here, which is 2x, and when I take it out, and this is what I get with my telephoto. So I have 3 lenses here, which is my standard, ultra wide, and telephoto lens. And you have a small sensor down here. I don't know if you can see it, but if I should take this case off, you have a small infrared looking stuff here. That is the depth sensor on this phone. So to recap, why we have multiple cameras is because the phone manufacturers are trying to give us those different lens options that give us different focal lengths. You will definitely have a standard, and if you have 2 lenses, you might have a standard and telephoto, or standard and wide angle, ultra wide angle, or wide angle, as the case may be. You might have a standard telephoto and wide angle. You might have a standard telephoto, wide angle, and macro lens. It just depends. Your standard gives you a wide shot, which is the normal lens which you use once you open your camera, but it is not as wide as the ultra wide angle. An ultra wide angle will give you a much wider shot where you can fit in a whole lot of things that you would not ordinarily be able to fit in on your wide angle, on your standard lens. So the wide angle gives you a broader frame, a broader field of view for your lens, while your telephoto is the zoom lens per se, where you can zoom in your subject to make it look bigger without having to do the pinch, zoom, and lose quality on your images. How many lenses does your phone have? Do you know how to switch between them? Do comment that in the comments below. Have you been using your different kinds of lens? Which camera, which lens do you use the most out of the lenses on your phone? Do comment that below. And if you have any question, you can also comment below. I'll be answering any question that I get. If you like this video, do smash the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe if you are not already subscribed, and ring that bell so you don't miss any other video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.